You're actually cutting out now too. You sounded like a dog growling there.
Oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
There's an interesting article just appeared on the Citizen saying about.
Started again, and I'll let you know when we're live.
Kathleen broke the internet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are live.
Thank you very much. We are returning from our special electoral area services committee meeting from this morning. And we are starting on the agenda of that one on R8. The cannabis continues. And I believe it was Ms. Wright that was presenting. I don't know if that's correct, or where was I?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was
Ms.
Allison
Garnett.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead. And I did have Director Smith on the speakers list. So Director Smith, you go ahead, please.
Thank you. My concern is the farm gate, and I think that it would be advisable not to have it in the bylaw at this time, as we are still waiting for the government to make the decision on it. Cannabis is a controlled substance, and it does have an age restriction. It's not like eggs, raspberries, and flowers as a farm gate item. And also, I'm wondering who is the jurisdiction that will be enforcing this bylaw with farm gate. If it's the CVRD bylaw officers, that comes at a cost to taxpayers. And I just want to know in this bylaw if it would be the expectation that the CVRD bylaw enforcement would be the ones that would have to enforce it. Can you please?
Ms. Garnett?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair. I don't think it's entirely determined yet. I believe the ministry responsible is just starting on a consultation plan to look at allowing farm gate sales. So I think at this point, I really don't have the answer to that, and I don't know that they do either. So I cannot give you a clear answer on that at this point.
Follow up, Director Smith?
Follow up. So at this point, I would be not able to support this bylaw. I think that until we have that clarification from the government with regards to farm gate, then we would know better what we're actually authorizing when it comes to farm gate being in the bylaw. Thank you.
Director Morrison, go ahead, please.
I'm still thinking about this morning when we were discussing the various odors that are produced from our various industrial farming activity. But you know, I guess I hope Mr. Tippett's still on the call, or maybe he isn't. But you know, I remember when we were drafting some of our initial bylaws around this, when we weren't exactly sure what the federal government had in mind as far as the cannabis regulations. We all knew they were coming, but we still put some I don't know whether I'd call them preemptive regulations in place, and I can see the appropriateness of that now, because you know, I can't imagine the federal government is going to allow for people to keep quantities of cannabis in a cooler at the end of the driveway, as we would think of farm gate, and I'm thinking it's going to be far more akin to some of the sort of high-end tasting rooms that some of our wineries have put in place. So you know, I highly doubt that we're going to have issues of you know, problems of sale to underage consumers of that product, and some of the traffic issues that have been mentioned to this point. And perhaps we could ask either Ms. Garnett if there's any anticipation or if there's been any discussion about what form the farm gate would take. I would imagine there would have to be significant security and the likes that would be not far off of what the retail cannabis purveyors have. So has there been any staff discussions around what this may look like?
Ms. Garnett?
Thank you. Yes, I've discussed it with the staff from the Ministry of Agriculture, and they are similarly unsure of what it will look like. They're really in the early stages of consultation. And so it's really premature for me to comment on that right now, but I know that the CVRD can keep apprised of that and how the consultation process is going on and perhaps participate in it to find out more on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So we have a 5-point recommendation. Would you like to read that, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Recommendation before you is that it be recommended to the board, number one, that CVRD bylaw number 4349, cannabis uses 2021, be forwarded to the board for consideration of first and second reading. Number two, that CVRD bylaw number 4349, cannabis uses 2021, be referred to the Ministry of Agriculture, the Agricultural Land Commission, RCMP, Municipality of North Cowichan, City of Duncan, Town of Lake Cowichan, Town of Ladysmith, Cowichan School District 79, Ladysmith Nanaimo School District 68, and the following First Nations: Cowichan Tribes, Didadat, Halalt, Liaxin, Malahat, Paquachin, Penelakut, Chemainus, and Subatset. Number three, that the revised CVRD cannabis production facility land use application policy be approved. Number four, that the revised CVRD cannabis retail store application criteria policy be approved. And number five, that the CVRD cannabis regulation bylaw enforcement policy 2018 be rescinded.
Okay, is there a mover? That's been moved. Second. And I call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Garnett. And we turn now to our 9. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item R9 is a report from the Community Planning Division regarding the CVRD Community Amenity Policy for the Electoral Areas 2021, and that is for information.
Thank you. Welcome back, Ms. Breen. And
Thank you.
Director Wilson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think this particular one, I'm going to find the document here. Sorry, bear with me. There it is.
And
there.
it's
Yeah,
for
for
information.
Yeah, I think probably one of the, I just want to point out what I consider to be the most important part of this report, and I'm sure everybody's read it, but it's towards the end there, and it says under the cost-based method, all factors that determine the contribution amount are understood and disclosed up front. The land lift approach is based on determining the increased value of land that results from a rezoning. The assumptions and factors that go into determining this increased value are complex and at times subjective. I think we've been through this exercise before where members of this board have said, well, if we rezone it, it's going to be worth twice as much. That's not our job, and that's not the way we should go. If we're going to do this at all, I would much rather see the cost-based method where the developer knows exactly what it's going to cost them. I'm not against the CAC at all. That has to be applied, but we can't go into something which says we think this land will be worth X amount after it's rezoned. We don't have that expertise, and even the staff are saying that the assumptions and factors that go into determining this increased value are complex and at times subjective. So I'm at the moment voicing my concerns about that land lift approach that is mentioned here.
Thank you. Is there any other? Go ahead, Director Nicholson.
Thanks. I was wondering, why the policy only applies to residential development involving a minimum of 10 subdivision lots or 10 dwelling units on a single parcel.
Ms. Breen?
Yes, good afternoon, through the chair. So this is a draft community amenity policy. Staff has only addressed residential and commercial. You can see that there's a highlighted area to add additional information. It doesn't have to be 10, it could be less. So this is a starting point for conversation.
Follow up, Director Nicholson? Okay, turn to Director Smith. Go ahead, Director Smith.
I agree that I think it should be a smaller number. In Saltaire, I think we don't even have an opportunity to have 10 lots out of a subdivision to be subdivided. So I think that to make sure that all communities benefit, that a smaller number would be appreciated. Thank you.
Director Morrison?
Yeah, thank you. This is an area of particular interest, and it's mainly because of, I think there's the ability for developers in certain circumstances in the south to be able to acquire some additional density for some cash contributions, and that's not something that we brought in my area. But I think what Director Wilson says, I tend to agree with, in that there's, it's wild speculation to think that we can guesstimate, even if we were to have any sort of appraisal of what a potential lot or lots could be worth. We certainly would be in a spot of trouble if there was assessments done at a certain value, and then the market were to drop and the likes. I don't think as local government we should be going down that road. If we can know what fixed costs are, I've seen other electoral areas have entered into agreements for amenities where a lot of a subdivision is dedicated specifically for fire department enhancements and that sort of thing. And those are fixed and hard, on paper agreements that make sense to me. I'm a firm believer in the keep it simple, silly rule. Also on the number, this is one that I think we have to go to a smaller number as well, because not all subdivisions are created equal, where you could have someone is taking a relatively decent sized waterfront lot and is creating 6 lots out of it, and it's going to be worth millions of dollars. And that, on the other hand, there may be subdivisions of a more modest nature that are meeting our goals as far as affordable housing goes. So I think a smaller number is appropriate when we get to a final version of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Kuhn, go ahead, please, and then Director Martman.
Yes, I have a question. What basis did we use so far to come up with amenity contributions? Was it a fixed way? The way I look at it is, it was kind of, we walked all over the place, I think. So I'm wondering if we now say we will go for one specific way, are we putting ourselves into a box, and then come let's say a very different situation, and we're suddenly in this box, and no, we can't do this. No, according to our bylaw, we have to do this. I'm wondering if we shouldn't just not fiddle with this, because I can see both sides. I can see the argument, oh well, no, we won't go on the lift value because that's difficult to. On the other hand, if we go on just the purchase price or whatever, we might not get what we actually could get and what might be actually reasonable. So I'm cautious with this. I would much rather just leave it open, and if we can, maybe there's a requirement for us to do a certain way. I don't know, but if I could leave the options open, I would leave them open, because so far I think we've done well with this, and I'm cautioning to just put ourselves into a box and then later might get an application where, God, we could have done better than that, and we couldn't. So anyway.
Thank you. I have Director Martman, Wilson, and Acton. So Director Martman, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And maybe it's again back to the farming. We've had large farms in our area that have been, for all intents and purposes, subdivided into smaller parcels. Is there any way to include these into this policy?
Ms. Breen?
Through the chair, yes, we can, or the directors can. And as we kind of work, as you think through this policy and we discuss it further in the workshop at the end of September, just a reminder to the directors that this policy is in front of you because all amenity policies have been removed from the OCPs. So this is for your consideration of having a uniform approach, which doesn't mean that you couldn't consider a hybrid approach or address both approaches when appropriate. So, which keeps it more open, but it does provide some guidance, and for not only the directors, but also for the public. So certainly both approaches could be included in the policy.
Thank you. Director
And
Wilson,
it
go
can
ahead,
extend beyond residential and commercial.
Thank you. Director Wilson.
Yeah, maybe I'm getting a bit confused here. I thought the amount that Director Kuhn was referring to was 5% of the value that the developer would put forward, or is that only for parkland acquisition that goes into the thing? Is this something different that we're talking about, Coralie, here than the 5% or land?
Go ahead, Ms. Breen.
Through the chair, I believe that was the latter was the director's comments was beyond the 5%.
Okay, so
That's
follow up,
my
please.
understanding.
Yeah, follow up, please. So this
Go
would
ahead.
be on top of the parkland 5%.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I go turn to Director Acton, then Nicholson. Go ahead, Director Acton. Oh, and then Morrison.
Yes, thank you. I'm really happy that we're having this conversation, and I take it we're not really making any firm decisions today. And in the South, I'm not sure by some of the comments, but it's really important for the developers to bring the services because the taxpayers are not going to bring the services. So that becomes the amenity contribution that's really important. And I think we need this because we have applications coming in that assume it should be granted, but the services are not there. So we need a solution. So I think this is really good, and this will help add to that. And the 5% parkland dedication, when you do the math, is almost it's not very equitable to the community. It doesn't add up very quickly at all. In West Vancouver, it's 90%. So I think we need to find a good balance. So thank you.
Director Nicholson, then Morrison, then Salmon. Hope I haven't. Oh, not Director Nicholson. Okay, I have Director Morrison and Salmon. If I got that correct. Go ahead, Director Morrison.
So, this is an information only item, and I'm, the longer I consider it, the more I think of a hierarchy of need, and I know that we're trying to create a a strategy or a policy that we can have as a broad template across all regions. But even with the hierarchy of need, I pay into 5 fire departments. Park may not be a parkland. We can take that, but we may also have other needs that are specific to an area. And so I think that what Director Kuhn has said about the flexibility, I think it makes sense for us to have a template of that hierarchy of need that you go through fire department, you go through, sewer, water infrastructure contributions, that sort of thing, as a basic template. But we have to maintain that flexibility for something that's unique or out of the box for an individual area where these developments may be put in place. So I don't know how we can do that, but we're giving this to staff for you to bounce around, and we can have further discussions in September. Thank you.
Sounds great. Director Salmon, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question. I think it would be a good idea if we did add institutional zones to the residential and commercial. Thinking here in the south end, we've got 3 rezonings in various stages of the 3 large private schools, and they're worth tens of millions. The assessments don't pay property tax, and we need some consistency that we know roughly what, if possible, what we should be asking when the rezonings occur. So I don't know if Ms. Breen, if that's possible to have that included.
Thank you. So you have this was an information item, and Ms. Breen, you heard from most of the directors, if not all of them. And with that, I don't see any other hands up, and I turn to another 10-minute break for question period. Do I have that correct, Ms. Harrison? I'm fading. Okay, great. 10-minute break. See you back at
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are live.
Thank you so much and welcome back. We are now at the part of the agenda, which is question period. Do we have anyone in the gallery for question period, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not.
Okay, thank you very much. So a motion to adjourn. Moved and second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. That was a very tough day. I